So, this week, our topic, or at least the topic that I chose, is neighborhood effects. And while reading about it and discussing the prompt, kind of sitting here pondering it, I elected to use some real life examples from my own personal life. In our reading, we discovered that neighborhood effects are related to sociocultural environments that can impact a child's development. And so, in my own personal case, there are two different models within neighborhood effects that I want to touch on, and both kind of have the same intervention that the church can introduce to actually address these. And so, the two that I'm going to be touching on are the relationship as well as the norm and collective efficacy models. And the examples I provide are going to be both personal. So, for the relationship aspect, that one within neighborhood effects is more closely related to parents and children and the kind of relationship that they have and how that can impact or carry over into a child's development and their behavior. So in my case, growing up, I didn't have the best relationship with my father. My father was abusive. He was very, very difficult, very self-centered, and very selfish. And so dealing with this environment at home made me very slow to trust people, and it also made it rather difficult for me to form those deep social connections with friends, teachers, other community members that would normally aid in a child's development, especially socially speaking. And so I had to battle with the long-term effects of this for quite a while. As for the norms and collective efficacy, this is actually one that affects me as well as my fiance, and that is the concept of racism. In my own case, I am of fairly mixed blood. I am Native American as well as Hispanic. And in my fiance's case, she is Caucasian and African American. And so we both, growing up, had to battle with not being accepted because of the social norms that we somehow violated. And while interracial couples are beginning, or have been for a while, but definitely beginning in more recent times, begun to become more prevalent, there's still a social stigma within smaller micro communities, microsystems, like we discussed in neighborhood effects. And so we both had to battle with being isolated, being separated, and being judged, which led to obviously our development in a social context being limited because we were unlikely to trust somebody or to try to reach out to build those connections, because when we did, they would repeatedly get stepped on. And so taking both of these, very real, very personal examples into account, you can see that neighborhood effects have a very serious, very far-reaching impact on a child's life, especially in, while my examples may be a little bit more on the extreme side as they involve some form of judgment or harassment or abuse, not all will. Some will be more minor, but they all can play a big role in how a child develops. Now, as for what the church should do to intervene, I said that both of my personal examples, the church kind of has the same role or can take the same action. And that's providing that sanctuary, that's providing that safe space, right? That would be the church instating community outreach for counselors, for youth counselors, for, services. Or I even had a story of a friend of mine who was attending a church where they would have hours during the regular week outside of service hours where they would just have youth come in. They could have a place to relax and be in a safe space with adults there who were trained in youth counseling if they had anyone that wanted to talk, or if they just wanted to talk to somebody, or just a safe place to hang out with their friends. And so programs like that allow a lot of people that may be suffering through similar circumstances to myself, or maybe just feeling lonely, feeling isolated from any of the various models that are presented in neighborhood effects. It can, the church, by just providing that safe sanctuary, by providing that outreached hand, that outstretched hand to be there for these, youths or children that have no other place to go, or perhaps they have a place to go that they just don't feel comfortable doing so. The church intervening in that way can have a dramatic impact on the community aspect of a child's development. And as it relates to neighborhood effects, that kind of falls into the collective efficacy, and it also kind of falls into just the community around them, the environment that you grow up in. That kind of environment can have a long lasting effect on someone's development and how they actually may view the church, or even may view themselves in the community around them. And so, while the neighborhood effect is very real, I feel like it can be mitigated to a great degree if members of the community, and the church especially, can just take the initiative to get more involved and provide some of those programs, or open the door at least for some of those programs to begin to blossom, to help people not have to go through similar circumstances.